Welcome to Soccer Talk, a podcast about soccer in Iowa, presented by Kick It Forward. Kick It Forward is a local nonprofit organization that strives to be a positive disruptor to the Iowa soccer community.
Among other things, we promote accessibility, diversity, and integration at a grassroots level.
Check us out on our website at www.kifsoccer.com or look us up on social media. This podcast is distributed on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, even Stitcher for Luke Freeberg. Plus, you can watch it on YouTube. Make sure to rate and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. We're your co-hosts, Ben Brackett and Blake Sievers, and we are here to talk soccer.
That's right, Ben. All soccer, all the time. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. I'm Ben Brackett, your co-host, along with my good buddy and pal, also co-host, Blake Sievers. What's up, Seabo?
Good morning. You got that guitar figured out, I think, since our last episode. It's
still not posted, but we'll get posted shortly. And yes, I did practice a couple times, or thought about it at least beforehand, as opposed to winging it, which was probably wise.
We're in the lair today.
Back in the lair. I like it in here. It's kind of nice. We got the special lights to brighten our day.
Yeah, so if you guys want to see what we're talking about, jump on our YouTube page, Kick It Forward. You can watch this. You can even fast forward it and play it like ×2 speed to help things out probably and get through quicker.
That's right. So we haven't done this in a while, have we? Game of the week, club game of the week, right? Club soccer.
Yeah,
soccer. Gosh, I can't remember the last one we covered. Who to watch? Let the fans know.
Big news in the Iowa soccer community, obviously, over the past, 6-8 months, year, something like that. So Sporting Iowa has joined the full ECNL side league on the girls' side.
What does that stand for? The Elite Club National League, I believe, ECNL. If you're familiar with what U.S. Soccer was doing probably about 10 years ago with the Development Academy, basically where they were trying to raise up the level of soccer throughout the boys' side. The answer to that was the girls created ECNL, right, Siebes? And it has now turned into a kind of a nationwide phenomenon. The Development Academy no longer exists. You've kind of got the MLS next thing, but then ECNL is to be considered, at least as they tell us, it's the top level that you can play across the country right now, which definitely a good game we got to see.
Yeah, I think all the national team players are starting to come up, especially the young ones through the ECNL. The college players are, on the women's side for sure. ECNL there is the top kind of league to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. So we took in the U17 girls Sporting Iowa squad, taking on Midwest FC, which is from Grand Rapids, Michigan. So they'd taken the bus down. Maybe, I don't know, should we talk a little bit about CDL quick before, or not CDL, I'm sorry, Jesus, Freudian slip.
There's so many different leagues, you got to keep track of them,
then. No, let's just talk a little bit about ECNL. And I don't know, we had a minute or two on the sideline talking to Rich Bywater, just kind of about what were some of the requirements, and they had tents up for the other team, and talking a little bit about the travel partners. Kind of an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think the ECNL realized that the Midwest, there was a huge hole, and trying to, I'm assuming, grow their numbers, grow their membership, wanted to put a little regional footprint in each region, and the Midwest was definitely, there was a hole there.
Yeah, kind of as there always has been. But yeah, so Sporting is partnered with Gretna, which is a team out of, I think they're west of Omaha. And so they travel together to play at events. And then, so this last weekend, Midwest FC from Grand Rapids. And then who were their travel partners? Do you remember?
Liverpool Academy.
Gotcha.
Which is a super creative name. Which, not everyone's Sporting, I suppose, either. So
yeah, well, that's sort of the standard these days. But yeah, so they were, basically a little mini event going on this weekend. I'd say we just maybe hop into the action.
Well, real quick, so we got maybe a mid to lower half battle here. So they
Okay.
keep standings, right? So Sporting Iowa going in was ninth in the table, or ninth in the Midwest table, and then Midwest United FC was 10th.
And what are there? How many teams are there in the?
I think there's 13, 12, something like that.
Gotcha. Well, so definitely points on the table for both of them to be had. And man, what a, I think we talk about the weather a lot, but it was beautiful out. It was, 65, sunny, no breeze.
Yeah, it was honestly probably the best weather soccer we've been to in a long time.
Yeah, Hidden Valley was looking sharp. I was a little jealous not to be on the field. I mean, I don't know, you and I I literally started playing soccer at Hidden Valley when I was 5. But just have lots of fun memories there. So it's fun to see some stuff in action.
Yeah, so let's get to it. So we walk up, and Hidden Valley talked about there was a maybe 14 some girls game going on, and then there's another one at the far end where another age group. So we went to the 17s, and kind of a fair to say back and forth game there in the first half, Ben.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
how the goal by Sporting.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of those. It was funny. I was trying trouble figuring out which team was which, just because from far away it just looked like blue against gray, and the gray team was sitting under the Sporting Iowa tent, which, as we found out later, was because they offered the tent to the opposing team. But I was having some trouble, and there was a player on Sporting Iowa who just sort of croifed the ball, a little double touch, and then turn and switch like a 40-yard pass across the field. And I thought it was somebody on the other team. And I was like, oh man, Sporting's in trouble if this is the level they're up against. But instead it was the other way around. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that was them. And there are a couple of players there in the middle of the park that were really impressive.
Yeah, and I think just from some of our research that we did, Sporting has got quite a few injuries. So I think they brought a few different players up, maybe from their second team, to help kind of fill the roster out. And again, this is where we struggle. And I mean, we're big roster folks, but like maybe Shedsy, Rich, Daryl, like it would be kind of cool to have rosters somewhere, because we definitely caught on to the number scheme, didn't we, Ben?
Yeah, so they basically number everybody alphabetically throughout the age group. So you've got like number 53 pairing the number 24 in the middle of the park, which is maybe not the normal numbers, but it's also tricky from our standpoint, because we're like, who's wearing the 24?
Or there's a couple of 60s, a 70 in there as well. But number 53, I think she was like a second team maybe player that came in, and we thought definitely caught our eye in the middle of midfield there.
Yeah, yeah, we did. We certainly wouldn't realize she was had gotten pulled up. But the little 1-2 punch between her and number 24, I think that is Avery Galloway. I've seen her play before, and they had a little feisty partnership going in there for a little while. I think that was the main takeaway for me from both just listening, like as you're watching the game and listening to the coaches. So, they were both harping on their teams to compete, battle, win the first ball, win the second ball. And I think, that was apparent. Now it wasn't every single player wasn't doing it, but that's, sort of that age group. I think in general, right, Blake? But yeah, so you had Daryl Brazo, the Sporting Iowa girls coach, very much encouraging his players and basically challenging them pretty much constantly, which I appreciate a lot. Daryl didn't have anything to say to the referee or anybody else, but he was all over his players, making sure that they, were trying to execute some of the things they've been working on in training. And you heard him kind of talk about that stuff at halftime, right? Right, Siebes?
Yeah, which is kind of a good like reverse segue maybe, because at halftime, again, jump onto our Insta stories, because we talked to the coaches at halftime, threw the mic in front of their face and tried to figure out what their thoughts were, what their message was. And he talked all about battling, competing, fighting. And the first goal by Sophie Bush basically was a result of her just having a little bit of fight, desire, being a little bit stronger and winning the ball in the penalty area, and then smashing home the goal to go 1-0 up with maybe like 15 minutes to go in the first half or something like that.
Yeah, it sounds about right. And you know, just leading up to that, they'd had a couple passages of play where they looked really, really dangerous. So I think it was kind of coming at that point. And you know, I don't recall, because we were sitting right on their defensive end the first half. I don't recall the Sporting goalkeeper having a whole lot to do.
No, I think I think that's right, because they were right in front of us, and the Midwest United goalkeeper actually had far ends. It was hard for us to see, but halfway through that first half remember that diving save she had. It was just like, whoa,
really good save.
that was impressive.
Yeah, shout out to the Midwest goalkeeper there. You know, I thought it's also interesting for me, just because I haven't gone to see a club game for a while. So that the new FIFA rule, or what, you know, the new rule where you can basically, you know, you can play it from a goal kick. All you have to do is be outside your 6. And so they dropped their 2 center backs deep, and we're really trying to play out of the back. And, you know, they really didn't have that many opportunities to do it, right? But because there weren't that many goal kicks, but a couple times there, they look pretty good. And I think the only challenge that I would see is if another team presses them really high, that's a little bit better than Midwest FC, because I don't think they were quite as all over Sporting as they may have could have been.
Yeah, I think fair to say, especially we talked to Joe White, their coach, and he talked about at halftime kind of the same, funny enough, the same thing, right? And it goes to your point, Ben, about fighting, competing, working a little hard. And like you said, I don't know if they really actually, there's I would say like pretend pressing from their front 3/5 attacking players, and Sporting played the ball out of the back.
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny because the most recent coaching that I've done was for that 17 age group, 18 age group on the boy side, granted, but still, I think there's something about that age, because all week in training, you know, I guarantee you they're doing technical work, passage, passing drills, passing patterns, working on crossing and finishing, you know, whatever, playing small sided, and you compete in training, but then to get that level up in the game, sometimes I just couldn't know. It was very difficult to always get 11, 17-year-olds on the same page.
Yeah, and so we walked over there at halftime, and as we were kind of waiting for Joe White to talk to, we kind of eavesdropped and listened in a little bit, and it was interesting. Obviously his message was pretty direct, like, hey, like, we've got to compete, we've got to fight, we got to have a little desire, but it wasn't a screaming in your face. And he clearly, it was clearly the right message, because the second half they were, I would easily say, the better team, and we're able to get not to jump too far ahead, but we're able to get an equalizer.
Yep. Yeah. I thought it was interesting though. Yeah, I thought it was interesting because he was very calm in his halftime speech. Joe White. But I didn't, you know, again, this is just like, I don't know anything other than from what I can tell. But the players didn't look like they were like super fired up or bothered or anything like that. So they just sort of took it in stride. Whereas I felt like the Sporting players were a little more engaged, a little more fired up. So yeah, it's interesting that then it flipped when, you know, you got out there and Midwest was like really fighting back.
Yeah, like, you brought it up a couple times throughout the game at funny enough, the most inopportune times, but you're like, you know, it was quiet, and it was interesting that it seemed that the coaches almost were expecting and demanding more of the girls on both sides than their teammates were. You know, like, there was definitely some errant passes, underhit balls, not good touches, dodgy decision making, and nobody was like, hey,
right,
pick it up. It was more coming from the coaches, which again was interesting. I don't know what to make of it. But.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if that's like if it's a generational thing that we just you know, forget about, or if it's more, you know, if it's just being 17. I don't know, but it would be funny, you know, granted you're at Hidden Valley, so it's a quiet place to begin with, but when I was coaching, I used to always say to my players, I get bothered by the same things. And I'd say, okay, if I, you know, had a blindfold on and I walked up, I should be able to hear that this is a decent session. If I, you know, same way, if I couldn't hear anything, I'd want to see that things were, people were running around and buzzing. And there are a couple players that do that, right? But it's not 11 on 11 of just people going crazy. You know, it's like high school soccer. You see 11 players going as hard as they can.
Yeah,
Club
like,
soccer is a little bit
and holding their
less.
teammates to a little higher standard, I think, too. And maybe it's because high school soccer, there's a little, maybe a different range of ability, but I mean, we've been to a couple of college games now, Simpson, the other night in Central, and then the Drake men against Western Only men. And I mean, those guys aren't, when their buddy takes a bad touch or smash, hits a ball out for a throw in, they let them know about it. And
Yeah, well, I mean, think back even to the Iowa State women, just to liken it to this game a little bit more. I felt like when you watch that game, I mean, those women were getting after it.
yeah, so I think it'll be interesting because there's definitely some college commitments on the sporting side. Like, so we're going to the Drake women, UNI women here in a few weeks. I think it'll be interesting to see how this conversation relates to that side, because so you've got one of the Sporting Iowa girls that played kind of on the wide left, just committed to UNI. And then I think Sophie Bush, the goal scorer, is committed to maybe Iowa.
I think you said Iowa.
So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also hard, it's hard to, it's certainly not critical, it's just observational, because we've been there. Like, I wonder how you get 17-year-olds a little more fired up.
Maybe if they do it all in train, right? I mean, we know Daryl, and I mean, he's a demanding guy, and
Yeah,
he was, I mean, pretty calm, pretty reserved, still demanding, but not your quote stereotypical.
there's no Bobby Knight.
Yeah, I mean, we did this a couple of years ago too. We went to see the Nebraska State Cup final. We've all heard of these
Stories of Bill Kepin.
Yeah, he was like calm, reserved, and like got his message across, but wasn't Bob Knighting it. You're right.
Yeah,
which you can't do that nowadays, anyways.
No, but we've all been there. Yeah, so I mean, again, I think just a fun little morning out there. Maybe quick, just let's talk about that second half a little bit more. You mentioned that Midwest battled back and earned a penalty, which was on the far side, so it was hard to say what the foul was or what the situation was. I guess we should also mention just overall, there's a massive referee shortage, right? We heard about that. We've heard about that probably pretty regularly, right?
Yeah, and we've looked at some different opportunities to try to help that problem. And I think, ultimately, in my opinion, it comes down from like the federation charging these intro referees, beginners, young kids, of like $60-some, plus they got to buy a shirt. So they're in at $100 to $200 before they even ref a game, and they're anywhere from 14 to 18, and then even if they're older, that's a long way till you make that money up, and that's definitely got to be addressed, similar to what they've done in the coaching, the grassroots. They've at least starting to waive some fees, but again, that's dollar signs, unfortunately, to me, is what is a scary thing there.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Rich Bywater's comments, he sort of said there's like the contingency of older referees that maybe stopped due to COVID, or just got, kind of said, this isn't worth it. And then you've got another, say third of refs that are just maybe tired of taking all the, the shtick from the parents. We even heard, we heard a parent behind us chirping at the ref on the, chirping at the yellow team. And it's one of those like, yeah, maybe refs aren't great, but like cut them some slack.
And like you guys as parents and coaches, like the more you chirp at the referee, guess what? Now there's a shortage. And like Rich was saying, there's sometimes they've had parents in ECNL games have to referee. And that is, to me, is whoa, an eye opener.
Yeah, it's too bad. But it's funny because it almost makes me feel a little ashamed to think about some of the times that I used to just rip into the referee. But the thing is, when you do that, right, it never helps you. They just dislike you more. They're just like, right? They're just gonna make more calls against you.
Any 50-50 like decision, like, oh, guess what? It's going the other way if I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. So it took me a little bit to figure that one out. So if there's a young player out there listening, I would recommend keep your mouth quiet.
Yeah, so back, like you said, so Midwest United had
speaking of segues.
Yeah, there you go. Back, they definitely were on the front for the second half, got the equalizer, I think, which was deserved. Sporting, Daryl at halftime said he was going to go through, play quite a few players, which he did, and I don't know, the only thing I would just be curious about, which probably should have asked him, is how important 3 points were, or was it more important to, to get everybody minutes? I don't know. Just I'd be more curious than anything, because yeah, like you said, when they a lot of players played, and a lot of players played in kind of different positions that we noticed on the sporting side, at least, just because we know a few more of those girls.
Yeah. I would say that they'd probably be a little disappointed to end up at 1-1. Because I guess while Midwest was like, quote, all over them, they weren't exactly, like they weren't stringing 10, 15 pass movements together.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Let's see, what other topics would we like to cover on this one, Blake?
I don't know. I think it's good. It'll be interesting what, at least from the standings point of view, where both teams go, because, a point, unfortunately, for either side didn't do much for them. But, a few weeks left of the season outside. We've got our little free clinics that we still got a couple weeks left at the mini pitches. We got a little holiday party coming up. We got a couple more games of the week coming up.
It's true.
What else, Ben?
No, I don't know. I would just give a little shout out to Daryl Brazo and Sporting Iowa for their letting us come hang out, and Daryl for giving us a little bit of time at halftime, and same with Joe White. Poor Joe just got jumped. Basically, Blake just stuck a microphone in his face, and he was a great sport. Had some good stuff to say as well, so we appreciate him. What do you think, Siebes?
I think it's time for that awesome outro that you've been working on. Follow us on social media, KIFsoccer.com. Get those October plays of the month in. We had a big winner in September. Shocking number of votes, actually. It was cool. It was good. So here you go.
Why don't you just worry about getting up and hitting the stop record button, please?
All right. Put us out on a good one, Ben.